Hello and welcome to In Discussion. In this first series I talk to leaders in my network about creativity and innovation in the workplace. I hope you enjoy it.
Okay, so let's get going with the first question. We often hear that great leaders are born, not bred. Another way of looking at this is creativity something that you can train and develop, or are you born with it or without it?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and I've thought about this a lot since we first spoke. And I think the short answer is that it's probably a blend, but I would place more emphasis on the nurture side of things. I think we all know people, and I can think of one engineer specifically who I used to work with about 10, 12 years ago. You know, we all know one person, at least one person, who just has this ability to look at problems from a completely different angle. It's like they're looking at it through a different prism, or they're sort of attacking it from a different plane almost. And they just have this ability to come up with solutions because of the angle that they attack the problem from. So those people are out there, they walk among us. And I think for the rest of us, it's probably more to do with nurture, really. And in a professional environment, I think employers can certainly create environments where creativity is encouraged. And I think if you are fortunate enough in the formative stages of your career, if you're fortunate enough to work for companies that do encourage that, they encourage a little bit of risk taking, and they encourage people to kind of think creatively, and people are empowered to put resources into problem solving, then I think that sort of stays with you. It stays with you through the rest of your career. And there have been a couple of occasions in my career when I've been in environments where there has been that sense of, you know, the best idea around the table wins. Doesn't matter where it comes from, and there are, you know, you have the freedom to express yourself. You have the freedom to be creative and innovative. And if you fail, there's a tolerance to that, up to a certain point, of course. But if you fail quickly. You learn the lessons from that and you move on.
Interesting. So apart from the reputation, what were the individual traits or characteristics of this person? I mean, what was it about them that made you think this person is really creative?
It was just the way that he seemed to sort of attack things, you know, the way that he seemed to attack problems. I mean, he was an incredibly intelligent guy anyway, but I think sometimes when you're in the presence of people like that, you sort of feel like you and all of your peers and contemporaries, you're kind of hitting the problem that way, you know, you're sort of coming at it head on. And for whatever reason, this guy who I'm thinking of just had this ability to sort of like come at it from a different angle. You know, we'd all sort of charging through the front door, whereas he's sort of, you know, sneaking down the chimney. And it just had this knack of being able to sort of take the problems apart, you know, break them down into smaller elements. But come at them from an angle that maybe, you know, us mere mortals might not have considered. Just quickly on that as well. I mean, I think the other point as far as nurture is concerned is that there's no reason why employers can't organize themselves in a way that encourages people to be more creative. I mean, an old boss of mine many years ago once said that business, you know, in any sort of environment, B2C or B2B, you know, business is very, very dynamic. Things are always changing. It's a constantly changing equation. My mother was a chef, and the answer to some of the business problems that you face, it's not just about finding the right ingredients and putting them together in the right proportions, and then you make the recipe, and then that's the magic recipe, and then you just keep on repeating it in bigger and bigger quantities, because the landscape around you is always shifting. You know, what the competition are doing is always changing. The environment, the industry is always changing. So you are constantly tinkering, and that's just a fact of life, I think, in most people's professional career. You never hit on the winning formula. You're always sort of tinkering around with things in order to try and change some of the variables, because success is a constantly shifting thing.